So, 2 videos ago, we had spoken about Pettersson. In this video, we're also speaking about Pettersson. But no, it's not the Pettersson that you have all come to know and love in Vancouver. In fact, it's not even the second Pettersson that Vancouver has collectively come in and embraced with open arms. Today we're talking about the Pittsburgh Penguins and Marcus Pettersson. Because we had ourselves some conversations from different NHL analysts and media that go over 2 teams that are apparently involved in the trade conversation for, I was about to say Petey, but no, that doesn't make any sense. MPD, how about that? Marcus Pettersson is a name that I think a lot of people in the Western Canadian fan bases are going to be paying attention to because of the potential fire sale that the Pittsburgh Penguins are putting up and in display. They just traded away Lars Eller yesterday. Could Marcus Pettersson be next? Pettersson is 28 years old, 6'4", 176, left-handed guy. He's making $4 million till the end of 2024-2025, so this is the last year of his deal. Marcus Pettersson is on pace for about 34 points this season, which would be a career high. He had posted up 24 points in 68 games 2 seasons ago and 30 points in 82 games last season. He's been a very stable defenseman. Definitely not as offensively talented or flashy as a guy like Carlson or Letang, but Marcus Pettersson in his own right brings so much extra value that you won't end up seeing on the raw hard goals and assists. In fact, there was a tweet made by Mike Bartner earlier yesterday that talks about how if the Penguins are making everyone besides Sidney Crosby available, Marcus Pettersson is the top guy to trade for. He had 30 points last year, all at even strength, so 32nd amongst NHL defensemen. His expected goals percentage in the last 3 years, 56%, 52.9%, and 56.1% in 2140 time on ice. He's 28 years old and 1 year left at $4 million. He is 85% of Mattias Ekholm, and he is 4 years younger. Those expected goals percentage numbers are crazy. To consistently be a positive player is one thing, but to be as high up as 56% in 2 separate years is even more ridiculous. This guy just knows how to play good, solid hockey. He makes things work in the right direction, he pushes play forward, and he is a versatile player on top of that. At 28 years old too, you can't really go wrong with Mattias Ekholm light, you could say. 4 years younger relative to when Ekholm got traded at the 2023 deadline, by the way. Did not have the characters to include that. It's okay, Mike, you do some pretty good work, so you can get the pass here. But in this video, what I wanted to do was talk about some Oilers and Canucks updates because we had ourselves some different hits on social media that pretty much indicate that this player is of target for these Western Canadian teams. For Vancouver, I think it's a lot easier to understand the link there because Patrick Allvin, Jim Rutherford, they always love their former Pittsburgh Penguins guys. And when it comes to just gathering them all up, bringing them over to Vancouver, and using them on their new team, it seems like a pretty common trend. I mean, Teddy Bluger, Daniel Sprong, who else is there? Mark Friedman, Rick Tocchet, Casey DeSmith. Lots of guys from Pittsburgh and Vancouver share that link. And seeing that Vancouver was so adamant on bringing in Jake Gensel in the previous offseason, yeah, you could definitely say that Allvin still believes in the vision that the Penguins have in a lot of those players. Now, starting out with Edmonton, though, I wanted to go over onto this. Jim Matheson tweeted this out. Marcus Pettersson, the Pens UFA left shot shutdown left D, will get lots of trade interest now that Pittsburgh has started to move veterans like Eller. The cost could be a second rounder and a prospect, but salary retention is necessary if Edmonton is looking for the 29-year-old Swede. So, if we're thinking about that, second rounder and a prospect, I'd say that the Oilers shouldn't really care much about prospects right now. I think a lot of people would agree. This team needs to win, and they have to win now. Trading away whatever prospects or young guys or youth that you have to go all in on a 24, 25, 25, 26 playoff berth is necessary, in my opinion. So, thinking about some prospects that the Oilers do have in their system, I mean, they have Matthew Savoie. They got him in the Ryan McLeod trade, which is still kind of mind-boggling to me why they ended up making that, especially since Savoie, brother of Carter Savoie, hasn't necessarily been too great. But he's a guy that once had a lot of draft pedigree, so maybe the Oilers can get something done over there. If you go over some of the other guys, I mean, Sam O'Reilly, they just acquired him in the recent draft. Roby Yarventy is a prospect that I actually really like as well. Pittsburgh could use a lot of young help, and maybe guys that are a little bit more matured and hopefully able to break into the NHL soon, like a Savoy or a Järventie, could be of value here as they try to remain competitive whilst Crosby is still on the team. Who knows, man? The possibility that they trade literally everybody but Crosby is there. It already started with Lars Eller a few days ago. So if the Oilers are going to be interested in some sort of a move, imagine 50% salary retained, maybe a second rounder, or a first if you wanted, because salary retained does add some value over there. But the Oilers, in their need for defensemen, can indeed bring this up. If you move Kulak over to the right side, you have Marcus Pettersson on the left, you can split the load a little bit easier so that Darnell Nurse has a bit of a more relaxed time doing his thing. Honestly, it's kind of weird. I feel like Nurse is one of the rare players that he actually kind of plays better when he plays a lot. Very strange thing to say about a guy, but still, that's just kind of how I see it. Anyways, Edmonton is not the only team that is apparently interested in Marcus Pettersson, because we have ourselves Vancouver. Frank Seravalli went out there and had a radio hit earlier this morning on Halford and Bruff, diving into some of the same ideas. Now, big shout out over to Vancouver Canucks news summaries on Twitter, because they usually go out there and summarize everything that is talked about in these radio hits, puts them all together into an easy-to-digest format, and posts them on social media for all of us to read. Vancouver Canucks News Summaries is quickly becoming my favorite Twitter account, seriously. Here is the Frank Seravalli interview, which touches on the Canucks and Marcus Pettersson at the very end. Take a look at the graphic here. The Pittsburgh Penguins and Marcus Pettersson. Frank Seravalli argues that in his first job, Kyle Dubas plunged the Penguins further down the standings with his trades and signings. Does anyone really want most of the Penguins players? Rust, Macklin, and Letang, and almost half the roster has a no-move clause or a no-trade clause. Ricard Raquel and Tristan Jarry are untradeable. Frank Seravalli also talked about how he sees some value in Marcus Pettersson, and when Rutherford and Alvin first took over, they did have some interest in acquiring him. Pettersson's biggest struggle is that he can't make an outlet pass, so he's exactly what the Canucks do not need. Now, this is actually a bit contradictory to some of the overall ideas that have been tossed out there. Hey, Pettersson, right? Alvin Rutherford, Alvin Penguins, they like their guys, so get Pettersson, get Pettersson. Frank Seravalli provides the contrary. He says that yes, Rutherford and Alvin did have some extended interest in this guy back when they first took over the Vancouver Canucks, but it's interesting that Seravalli labels Pettersson's one biggest weakness as the reason why the Canucks might not want to get this guy. How his breakout ability isn't the best. We have seen with some players like Hughes, Hronik, and Erik Brannstrom that the breakout is very, very important to how it is they're able to move the game forward and allow the team to create more offensively. By just having that stability, you don't have to keep on worrying about circling back or worrying about any turnover or something like that. We've seen some guys like Tyler Myers and the Erica Bransons of the world, the Tucker Pullmans and the Lucas Spizas in the past. Guys who cannot break the puck out usually don't have a good time in Vancouver. Their job is very distinct. Get the puck out. And if Marcus Pettersson's one struggle is that he can't do that, then okay, I can understand Seravalli's point, but at the same time, with all the other insiders talking about Marcus Pettersson's name floating him around the Vancouver bubble, I do kind of question if Tocchet and Alvin would be more inclined to believe that Marcus Pettersson under this D coaching staff would be able to fix those warts. This is not an older guy who is at the tail end of his career who's already set in his ways. No, Marcus Pettersson is 28 years old, and he's had 6 years of NHL plus experience. I don't want to say that this is the kind of guy that wouldn't be able to learn. Now, whether or not he can actually improve those breakouts is something that I think we'll have to wait and see if it's actually possible, but this D-core staff, I do believe in it, and I do want to say that if Marcus Pettersson was added onto the Canucks roster, he could not be any worse than Vinny Desharnais, right? He couldn't be any worse than Derek Forbort, who admittedly has not been bad, per se. He's just been not available. So ultimately, if the Canucks do try to go down the Marcus Pettersson route, like Seravalli suggests they have tried in the past, and like some of the other insiders have spoken about already, I do kind of question how well that fit is going to be, and whether or not the Canucks have it in them to try to outbid an Edmonton Oilers squad that might be in the running of giving up a second and a first or whatever if they want to get salary retained. The Canucks would probably have to do salary retained too, but ultimately, it boils down to how much space they're going to have. I'm sure they're smart enough to do the math to figure out how much everything is going to cost by the time the trade deadline and the playoffs roll around. But for now, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Elias Pettersson's not brother, Marcus Pettersson, and what do you think about him and these trade updates with the Vancouver Canucks and Edmonton Oilers? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.